So I made a decision that I'm not particularly proud of.
Ah, jetzt pinkelt er da rein, ne?
Oh, that's disgusting.
Jetzt wird's wild.
Kazakhstan is huge. It's the 9th largest country in the world, but only has a population of 18 million. To put that into perspective, that's roughly the same population as the Netherlands, but it's a staggering 65 times larger. The main reason for its tiny population density is because it's close to
Passt mal gleich auf, was abgeht. Passt mal gleich auf, was gleich passiert.
50% desert, and a lot of the country looks like this. I first travelled to Kazakhstan when I was 19, with the simple aim of riding a unicycle
Der Typ fährt mit dem Einrad.
across it. With its poorly maintained roads, sub-minus temperatures, unpredictable weather, and vast stretches in between villages, Kazakhstan
Mit einem Einrad, Juden.
for me was by far the most challenging country I ever attempted to cycle. But this video isn't a collection of all my experiences travelling across this beautifully barren country, but specifically about a 3-day stretch I spent out on one particularly ill-advised shortcut. So please join me on a tale of struggle, seclusion, and peeing into plastic bottles because you're genuinely concerned you're going to run out of water and die of dehydration. This is my story of Meinecke Road, the most remote road in the world.
Holy moly, Alter.
Yeah, I'm
Fun Fact 2, ich kann auch Einrad fahren.
definitely over-exaggerating things here for impact. Let's say the most remote road in Kazakhstan. Yeah, but thinking about that, yeah, there's definitely more remote stretches out there. Let's say the most remote road that I ever unicycled across on my World Unicycle Tour. Not quite as catchy, but we'll work on the title later. For now, please enjoy the video.
Holy shit.
We begin in the west of Kazakhstan, in a guest house just
Kasachstan, ganz ehrlich, Kasachstan, woran müsst ihr denken? Ich weiß ganz genau, woran ich denken muss.
outside a small town called Kulsuri. I'd stopped here to stock up on supplies.
The Borat! Mein Name Borat, das ist meine Schwester, sie ist beste Prostituierte aus ganzem Land.
Before heading down the Meinecke Road. But
Guckt euch das Ding an. Was ist das, Alter? Das ist doch krank, oder? Warte. Digga, hier lädt irgendwie seine Lampe für den Helm. Und er hat hier irgendwie so eine Bremse. Einradtour. Ne.
You'll learn more about that later. Over the previous 2 weeks, I'd ridden my unicycle 450 miles from Aktau on the Caspian Sea, sticking to the only highway that runs through this particular part of the country. So far, travelling on this road had been rather pleasant. Its smooth asphalt had taken me through small villages full of friendly people, past big old camels, slowly into the heart of this
Ich weiß, es ist keine Kuh.
enormous country. But I'd shortly be turning east, and I'd been informed that this nice smooth road that I've been enjoying
Der hat ja auch keine Schaltung, der tritt ja wie er fährt, wisst ihr, was ich meine?
would soon run out, to be replaced by a rough stretch all the way to Aktubay that I was told hadn't really been maintained since Soviet times. So at the moment we're here, and it's going this way, but this road, it's bad. Yes. On top of that, my visa expired in 2 weeks, and I really wanted
Digga, das ist schade, das ist schon eine
to
Ansage.
make as much progress as possible in this first entry
Ja, kann nur einen
before
Platten haben, das
returning
ist
for
gut,
my
ja.
second month to complete the crossing. With all that in mind, I started to scan my map for any kind of shortcut that may help me speed up my progress. And that's where Meinecke Road fits in. It wasn't a major shortcut by any stretch, but all
Okay, also er will jetzt hier lang fahren. Was heißt the world loneliest road? Meinecke Road. Wie viel sind 95 Meilen, Leute? Wie viel sind 95?
in, it would help me save about 60 miles of riding. The only downsides were that nobody lived here or drove this road. It was apparently very poorly maintained, and there was no water sources on.
Also es gibt 150 Kilometer? 150? 160? Irgendwie sowas? Sagen viele 152? Er hat gerade gesagt, es sind keine Wasserquellen, ne? Und das ist die Straße.
This route, meaning I'd need to carry potentially 3 days worth of water. But it was
Okay, er ist 3 Tage unterwegs. Ich muss ganz ehrlich sagen, bei Schei zum Beispiel, wenn ich mir die Videos von ihm angucke, er ist ja kein gebürtiger Engländer oder sowas. Er spricht ja quasi, ist ja eigentlich Holländer, Niederländer, irgendwie sowas, glaube ich. Oder wo kommt der eigentlich her? Oder kommt der aus Estland oder sowas? Wie war denn das? Keine Ahnung. Auf jeden Fall spricht er ja gelerntes Englisch. So, ne, ihr wisst, was ich meine. Und er spricht ja Muttersprache Englisch und da finde ich es teilweise schwerer, die Sachen zu verstehen. Und die ist auch nicht untertitelt. Hat der Untertitel drin? Ja, ich mache Untertitel rein.
It would save me 60 miles, so I decided to go for it. Which brings us to that guest house just outside of Kalsari, the night before heading down the Meinecke Road. So I found myself in another roadside resting point. I don't know what you
Also,
call it.
habe ich es richtig verstanden? 3 Tage plant er dafür ein. Also 50 Kilometer am Tag ungefähr mit dem Einrad.
Theory is that I've got about 100 miles of nothing coming up. So I need to have all my supplies with me, and it might take me 3 days to do it.
Ja.
So stop here, make sure I have enough food. There's plenty of food here, so I should be able to load up with some food, and then get off tomorrow.
Welche Ausrüstung würdest du empfehlen, wenn man bis Rom laufen möchte? Digga, das ist eine Frage, die kann ich dir nicht in einem Satz beantworten, Alter. Da kannst du 2 Stunden Gespräche drüber führen. Wenn du bis nach Rom laufen willst. Also, pass auf, eine Sache, die ich dir schon mal sagen kann. Wenn du bis nach Rom laufen willst, würde ich dir empfehlen, erstmal ein paar Tagestouren zu machen, zum Antesten und dann auch ein paar Mehrtagestouren, vielleicht so 2, 3 Tage, um das zu testen, um überhaupt zu gucken, was passt, welche Ausrüstung und dann los. Einfach jetzt so random Rucksack packen und nach Rom laufen, schwierig.
Having rammed the unicycle full of supplies the night before.
Okay.
The 8 liters of water strapped around my panniers.
Was? 8 Liter. 8 Liter. Für 3 Tage 8 Liter? Das ist gar nicht mal so viel, ne?
And the blue plastic bag full of bread and sausage would hopefully see me through this next 100-mile stretch. I shared breakfast with the ladies that ran the guest house, and then headed out the door to face what I figured would be quite an arduous few days. Blimey, is this unicycle heavy? It's definitely the heaviest it's ever been. Okay, this ends the 3 miles of road for today. Now we're turning off onto a track.
Aber so wie das aussah, ist der Weg ja auch nicht gerade, ne?
Yeah.
Ja, 2 Liter pro Tag empfehlen die Ärzte. Die Frage ist aber, wie viel Bewegung, Sport machst du dabei und wie warm ist es? Ne?
We'll see how this goes. Meinecke Road, here we go.
Mocko! Geil, einfach dieser Dino oder was hier vorne ist.
It's starting to rain just a tad. Obviously, rain out here is a bit serious. Much more serious than somewhere a bit more populated. Because there is literally nowhere to hide from it.
Da ist halt auch einfach nichts, ne?
Luckily, the rain didn't really end up coming to anything, so I pushed on, now following the slightly smoother dirt track, which ran parallel to the muck.
Alle Leute, die immer Adblocker schreiben, Leute, ich verstehe es nicht so ganz, weil ich bin selbst Creator. Und im Endeffekt, die Leute, die so Videos kreieren, die ihr kostenlos guckt, die leben genau davon. Wenn sich alle Leute einen Adblogger holen würden, dann würde es wahrscheinlich diese ganzen Videos größtenteils gar nicht geben. Weil viele Sachen sich darüber halt finanzieren.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's a herd of camels. Just running.
Lol.
Yeah, I can't tell because it's just so far away. That's cool. So far, this route hadn't been anywhere near as bad as I'd anticipated. There certainly were large potholes that I needed to pay close attention to, but apart from the couple of sections where shrubs were growing out of the concrete, quality road, the road seemed alright.
Oh, da sehe ich mich aber auch mit dem Gravelbike lang donnern.
Just as light was starting to fade, I came across a small bridge. This was the first kind of structure I'd come across all day, so it wasn't a tough decision to cool it and camp underneath it for the night.
Ah.
Isn't this kind of stuff out here?
Okay, das ist das erste Gebilde, was er jetzt wieder sieht auf der Tour den ganzen Tag und jetzt will er drunter campen, oder wie?
So instead of potentially pushing on another couple of miles and getting stuck out in the rain, I'm just going to stop here.
Auch geil.
Even with this massive concrete windbreak, the heavy gusts still made it a struggle to pitch my tent.
Brauchst auch Geduld.
I eventually found enough rocks to keep it from flying away and settled into sleep, satisfied with the 45 miles I've managed to cover that day.
Bis jetzt hat er noch kein Auto gesehen, ne?
Good morning. Still under the bridge. Oh, my feet are so cold. Everything's cold. It's just chilly. And all through the night, it was just windy. There was no respite from the wind. The clouds are thick. It doesn't look like there's much opportunity for the sun to come out, but it might, like it did yesterday. But we'll see. Ooh! Just as I was saying that. Ooh! A tiny little gap. Oh, yes.
Tja, das kennt man. Und 2 Sekunden später ist alles weg und das war's.
My celebration of the sun was short-lived, however, because this ended up becoming my entire morning.
Nee, Leute, wenn wir sowas gucken, machen wir hier sicherlich keinen deutschen Untertitel rein. Wenn, dann gucken wir es Englisch mit englischem Untertitel, weil dann lernt man nämlich auch gleich noch ein bisschen was dazu.
Oh.
Das ist Kasachstan.
This is ridiculous. Look at this place.
Alter, das ist schon gruselig auch, oder?
The decent-ish surface I'd followed yesterday had completely disappeared, to be replaced by what I can only describe as loose gravel. On top of that, the wind had seriously increased, and the whole landscape was now blanketed in thick fog. It was impossible for me to ride, so I carried on by foot. This was
Warum kann er jetzt nicht fahren? Weil es zu windig ist?
going to be a much slower day.
Oha. Alter, wenn er jetzt läuft und das schiebt, ist ja ultra langsam. Ach du Scheiße. Straße ist zu schlecht wegen dem Kies? Straße zu schlecht?
By midday, I'd made a pitiful 9 miles, and with roughly 46 to go until the town of Meinecke, I had to face the fact that if I continued at this pace, I was probably going to run out of water. I'd already drank 3.5 of my 8 litres, and at this rate, I was going to potentially have to make the last 4.5 litres last me for the next 2, possibly 3 days.
Ach du Scheiße.
So I made a decision that I'm not particularly proud of.
Ah, jetzt pinkelt er da rein, ne?
Oh, that's disgusting. Alright, just to get this straight, the idea wasn't just to drink it neat. I'm not that weird. The idea was that if I did become desperate, I could at least use the urine to cook and rehydrate my pasta. I didn't want to do this, obviously, but if I collected it, I thought at least I'd have the option. So now, with one of my bottles half full of urine, I continued on down the road.
Oh, Alter, da ist doch einfach nur flach, du siehst einfach nichts. Ich finde, das sieht aber die ganze Zeit schon sehr, sehr... Guck mal, er ist die ganze Zeit so am hin und her wackeln, ne? Also da, beim Fahrrad bist du ja ein bisschen entspannter.
I'm not sure how far away it is, maybe 4 or 5 miles, something like that. I'm probably going to push to there, see if there's anybody there. I'm not even sure, but it looks like quite a big area. Maybe some kind of industrial place or something. I had no idea it was there, but very welcome. Welcome, because I was now down to my final 2 litres of water, and I really didn't want to start breaking into the home-brewed lemonade. Night fell around me, and so did the rain. But as I walked on, the lights didn't seem to be getting any closer. I kept on pushing, now frustratingly having to clear the mud from my wheel every few minutes. But eventually I arrived to see that it was indeed some kind of industrial plant. I'd been walking all night, so it was now 11 PM. Not particularly wanting to scare anyone,
Vor allem, er ist halt auch einfach da alleine komplett, ne?
I tentatively made my way towards the front gate. I was soaked through and incredibly cold. To my relief, I eventually found a bunch of workers having tea in one of the buildings. After a little confusion as to why this British guy had suddenly turned up in the middle of the night, a chap called Abe took me to the mess hall to have some hot food. This, unfortunately, is the only footage I have from that night. My camera's internal lens fogged up because of the drastic change in temperature. But believe me, the food tasted incredible. I was then directed to a room where...
Überleg mal, da kommt einfach so ein Engländer mitten in Kasachstan, Alter, im Niemandsland einfach an irgendwie so eine Fabrik oder weiß ich, was es genau war jetzt. Und ja, ich hätte gern was zu trinken.
I was told I could sleep that night. But before going to bed, I quickly headed outside to pour away the contents from one of my
Fritz Meinecke, man lernt mehr, wenn man Englisch hört und das Deutsche lesen kann und nicht Englisch hören und leist, Herr Lehrer. Deine Meinung, nicht meine Meinung. Wenn du so lernen möchtest, kannst du es gerne machen. Ich sag's dir ganz ehrlich, wenn ich Englisch höre und Deutsch lese, dann höre ich das Englisch nicht mehr. Dann lese ich einfach nur und krieg von dem nichts mit. Wenn ich es aber Englisch höre und Englisch lese, kriege ich auf jeden Fall mehr mit.
water bottles. You know which one. I know I turned up on a unicycle, but I didn't want them thinking I was a complete weirdo. Very early next morning, I sat down with Abe to try and gain a little more understanding of the roads ahead. What he told me was encouraging.
Bad.
That's, yeah.
Bad.
Bad, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super.
From there. Perfect.
Super.
And down this one? It's okay? It's
No,
super?
super.
Wow.
Super.
That's good news. Over
Geil.
breakfast, I learned that this place was an oil refinery, turning crude oil into various different petroleum-based products. The team here was pretty small, and these guys worked on and off for 2 to 3 weeks straight at a time. Yeah, write to me. Email. I'm very grateful that these guys were so welcoming, and I left them with a full stomach and fully restocked water bottles, ready
Und
to
weiter
face
geht
the
er.
final 30 miles of Meinecke Road.
Ey, das sieht so irre aus, wie der da mit seinem Einrad fährt, Alter.
Look at this road! This is the first time I've been able to actually break out a bit of speed. Woo!
Geil. Mega. Habe ich so noch nie gesehen. Feier ich hart.
10 miles down the road, the surface suddenly improved, making the distance fly by, and before I knew it, I was approaching civilization.
Auch für diese Kameraaufnahme, er muss halt einfach absteigen, Stativ hinstellen, wieder aufsteigen und so ein Scheiß alles, ne? Darf man nicht vergessen.
So we're just making our way into the town of Meinecke. And we've almost finished the Meinecke Road. Just a mile and a half to go. I think I might be walking. This road is just turned bad again. But there we are. It's been a long 3 days.
And with that, I rolled into town, which marked the end of my time on the Meinecke Road. While I did enjoy the slightly more extreme nature of this route, I'd probably be sticking to the main roads from now on. It was pure luck that the oil refinery was out there, and without the help from Abe and the rest of the guys working there, this could have become a very different story.
Take a photo. Camera.
Geil.
Like with all good adventurous shortcuts, it definitely would have been quicker to go around. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed the challenge, and I'm just glad that I didn't need to drink my own pee.
Geil gemacht.
I hope you enjoyed watching that video from Meinecke Road. I've had that footage sitting on my hard drive for about 4 years, but just for whatever reason I never got around to editing it. So it was nice to have the time
Ach krass, das ist sogar ultra altes Material
to
gewesen.
finally put that into some kind of story. As always, I'm now going to say the names of my 3rd tier Patreon supporters.
Ja, sehr, sehr cool. Schaut ja bei Pratt, wenn man ihn so ausspricht, vorbei. Hat, glaube ich, noch mehr so eine Videos. Ein paar Leute haben auch geschrieben, hat eine Weltreise gemacht. Hier. Unicycling across America und so weiter. How much does it cost to travel the world? 3 years. 3 Jahre anscheinend um die Welt gefahren und so weiter. Krass, krass, krass. Geil. War ein schönes Video.
All you hear is